Spirit saved air travel, then it crashed everything. That's the audacious, complicated truth behind an airline that changed everything. In 1985, Ned Homfeld, a restless entrepreneur nearing 50, wipes grease from his hands inside a dim, echoing Detroit hangar. The faint, sweet smell of jet fuel hangs heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the risky venture he'd staked his future on. He meticulously inspects the cargo hold of an aging DC-9, a workhorse belonging to his small charter company, Charter One. Every scraped knuckle, every bead of sweat, a testament to a singular vision others deemed impossible. The silence of the vast space was broken only by the soft click of his pen against the checklist. Each entry wasn't merely a formality, it was a silent promise against catastrophe, whispered to the empty seats. No headlines announce his presence, no executives from legacy carriers cast a glance his way. He's just a man with a clipboard, making sure every bolt holds, every latch secures, preparing for another flight few people will ever remember. Nobody thought much of him or his little operation then. His dream of ultra-affordable flights, Ned Homfeld's story begins in 1935 in a small industrial town outside Detroit, Michigan. His father, a tireless mechanic, often brought home grease-stained work shirts, while his mother managed their meager household with practiced efficiency. Young Ned, often found tinkering with broken clocks or discarded radio parts on the cold linoleum floor of their kitchen, learned early the unforgiving economics of repair and reuse. One scorching summer afternoon, while watching a distant DC-3 drone lazily across the vast Michigan sky, a thought struck him with the force of a revelation. There had to be a more efficient way to move things, to connect people. The world, he'd later reflect, was too big to stay still. In 1964, a determined Homfeld, now a man in his late 20s with a knack for logistics, founded Clipper Trucking Company. From a small garage in Warren, he painstakingly built a fleet, each rig a testament to his belief in tight margins and relentless scheduling. Nearly 2 decades later, by 1983, Homfeld saw a new horizon opening up above the highways. He established Charter One, a Detroit-based tour operator that began arranging vacation packages to sunnier destinations, initially contracting other airlines for flights. In the cramped office, surrounded by stacks of brochures and ringing phones, he felt the first stirrings of true control, knowing that if he owned the transport, he could own the experience. It was a risky leap from ground to sky, a commitment to a vision much larger than a single truck. By the early 1990s, the dream of total control began to fray. In 1991, an early Charter One flight to Nassau was delayed for 8 hours due to mechanical issues with a leased aircraft, stranding nearly 200 angry passengers in the cramped terminal at Detroit Metro. Homfeld personally walked through the frustrated crowd, offering apologies and vouchers, a bitter taste in his mouth. He was beholden to someone else's maintenance, someone else's schedule. This incident, more than any other, crystallized his resolve. They needed their own planes, their own destiny. It was a stark reminder that even the best intentions could be sabotaged by relying on others. In 1992, Homfeld made the audacious move. Charter One officially transformed into Spirit Airlines, introducing scheduled jet service with its own fleet of McDonnell Douglas MD-80s. With a small, dedicated team, they began by flying from Detroit to Atlantic City, then expanding to Florida. But the real game-changer came years later, in 2007, under the new leadership of CEO Ben Baldanza. Spirit was losing money, struggling to compete with giants. Baldanza's team looked at every single cost, dissecting the very DNA of air travel. Their breakthrough was not in a new engine or a lighter wing, but in a radical pricing model, ultra-low cost. They unbundled the fare. Suddenly, the ticket price covered only the seat. Want to carry on? Pay. Need to choose your seat? Pay. Even a bottle of water? Pay. It was an industry earthquake, allowing Spirit to slash base fares to unprecedented lows, making air travel accessible to millions who previously couldn't afford it. Passengers might grumble, but they were flying. By the mid-2010s, Spirit's model, while incredibly profitable, had also cultivated a notorious reputation. The constant nickel and diming, coupled with frequent delays and an almost comically Spartan onboard experience, led to a deluge of viral complaints. In 2015, a passenger's video of an overflowing toilet on a Spirit flight garnered millions of views, just one incident among many that painted the airline as a villain. Regulators often scrutinized their fees, and legacy carriers, forced to adapt with their own basic economy fares, secretly reveled in Spirit's public image woes. It felt for many inside the Miramar headquarters like the airline was perpetually on the brink, not of financial collapse, but of a reputational death spiral that could eventually cripple it. The relentless pressure of being the industry's punching bag was taking its toll. Then, by 2022, under CEO Ted Christie, Spirit faced new pressures. An industry grappling with post-pandemic travel shifts and consolidation. Legacy carriers were stronger, and the ULCC market was becoming crowded. In a surprising move, Spirit announced an agreement to be acquired by JetBlue Airways. The deal was painted as a pathway to stability, a chance to infuse fresh capital and integrate into a larger network, securing Spirit's future against the relentless tides of competition. Critics scoffed, questioning the cultural fit and the antitrust implications, while consumer advocates worried about reduced choice. Yet for many, it seemed a bold, necessary play, a way out of a corner. Today, in 2024, that bet has spectacularly unraveled. After intense scrutiny, a federal court blocked the JetBlue merger, citing concerns about market concentration and reduced competition. The decision left Spirit, a company now valued at a fraction of its pre-merger peak, in a deeply precarious financial position, burning cash at an alarming rate. Its stock symbol, SAVE, now feels like a cruel irony. Looking back, Ned Homfeld, the pragmatic entrepreneur who simply wanted to find a more efficient way, might have struggled to recognize the sprawling, beleaguered enterprise. The world now knows Spirit not just as the airline that democratized travel, but as a cautionary tale of how revolutionary ideas can, against all odds, end up flying on fumes. Spirit Airlines, for all its bright yellow bravado, genuinely saved air travel for millions. Before their relentless pursuit of ultra-low fares, flying was becoming increasingly out of reach for a significant portion of the population, often seen as a luxury rather than a utility. Spirit's aggressive unbundling of services and rock-bottom base prices didn't just open the skies to new travelers, it ignited a profound revolution across the entire aviation sector. Legacy carriers, long comfortable in their market dominance, were suddenly forced to adapt, reluctantly introducing their own basic economy fares and rigorously re-evaluating every aspect of their operational costs. This fierce competitive pressure made air travel genuinely accessible to millions who previously only dreamed of it, connecting families, fostering business, and literally shrinking the world for everyday Americans in a way not seen in decades. Spirit Airlines irrevocably altered the landscape of budget air travel, forcing an entire industry to reconsider the true cost of flying for both the airline and the passenger. But in doing so, it just as spectacularly crashed everything. The very innovations that made Spirit a titan also sowed the seeds of widespread distrust and resentment, fundamentally eroding the passenger experience. Its pioneering model, while brilliant for cost efficiency, often came at the expense of passenger comfort, reliability, and, crucially, customer goodwill. Passengers felt relentlessly nickel and dimed, confronted by a maze of hidden fees and often substandard service. This race to the bottom pressured other airlines into an unsustainable arms race of low fares, frequently eroding profitability across the industry, and creating a new normal where travelers expected rock-bottom prices regardless of the underlying costs. The overall perception of air travel dramatically shifted from an aspirational journey to an unavoidable, often frustrating endurance test. Spirit's own trajectory eventually crashed, leaving it financially vulnerable and effectively subsumed, but its impact reverberated far wider. It taught the industry how to cut costs, but at the painful price of dehumanizing the flying experience itself. What was gained in accessibility was slowly stripped away in dignity. If this deep dive into Spirit's complex legacy resonated with you, a quick tap on the like button really helps. It signals to YouTube that stories like these deserve to be seen by more people who appreciate the intricate forces shaping our world. Subscribe and you'll find a new chapter from the channel here every week.